fresh, healthy ingredients, easy to follow recipes, shipped to your door for a limited time. Get $30 off your first box when you go to HelloFresh.com/Colin. Free shipping to HelloFresh.com/Colin. Just so happy my friend Sharif on our show said he went and watched I, Tonya this week. And he loved it. I couldn't tell you the last time I went to a theater. I said, watch everything on demand now. I literally don't go to the theater. I had to drag myself to watch, what was the one with the Post? Yeah, I went Meryl Streep and Hanks. That's just basically Tom Hanks is the last guy in America that can get me to a theater. I don't go to the theater anymore. I like movies. I've never watched more movies in my life, but I watch them on demand. So, Goulet, you just saw, what did you just see this weekend? Didn't you just see something?
Well, I saw I, Tonya recently. No, the only thing that will get me to go to theaters, basically, I think the last two movies I saw in theaters were the two Star Wars. Apparently, that's the only thing I'll go spend money on. Yeah, so if you're a big franchise like a Star Wars or maybe like an Iron Man or a Tom Hanks, Avengers, I don't go to a theater anymore. And by the way, it's like everybody always banged on like the newspaper business. I've never read more in my life. I just don't read it through newspapers. Like this idea that, oh, America's getting dumber. I've never read more in my life. I just don't buy a newspaper. It's antiquated. Everything's 24 hours old. I live in L.A. You open the L.A. Times. It's nothing against the writers, but every story on the front page is a day old. Yeah, I mean, I get them online because I want to hear the latest stuff. But, I mean, I'm watching movies, but I go to a theater? Why would I go to a theater? By the way, it's $20 to go to a movie now. It's like $9 for a Heineken and $6 for those junior mints. I'm like $32 in. Plus, it's like $12 for that popcorn, and it's so much more popcorn than you could ever eat. You'd rather just have it half of that for half the price. Yeah, I'm not anti-movie. I'm anti, where do you have to go now to watch a movie? Yeah, I mean, just at some point, by the way, did you see the Cowboys? I like this. The Cowboys signed Allen Hurns. Now, Allen Hurns was a good football player a year ago for Jacksonville. Then he got 2 years ago, and then he got hurt. And they do have Blake Bortles and Leonard Fournette. Now, they don't throw as much, so his numbers have come down. But, you know, I'll tell you this. Dallas's problems are now first-world problems. You laughed at me last year when I said the Eagles would win the NFC East. Dallas's problems now are first-world problems. You know what first-world problems are? Our nanny is late again. You know, my new Range Rover doesn't have a rear-view camera. Those are what they call first-world problems. Dallas, now that they've sewn up, they've got Hurns, a legitimate receiver. All Dallas essentially needs now in the draft is an interior defensive lineman and a safety. You're a good football team if that's it. If you look at the L.A. Rams this morning and you can't figure out who they'll draft because they don't really need anybody outside of maybe another linebacker, that's a playoff roster. If you look at Philadelphia, and they could probably use now some tight end depth, that's a playoff roster. You could say corner, but Sidney Jones got hurt last year. He's really good. He'll play and start this year. But when you look at the Rams and you can't figure out what they'll draft, that tells you have first world problems. Philadelphia, you're not really sure what they need. That's first world problems. The New York Giants need offensive line help. They need running back help. They may need a pass rusher help. They let go of JPP. I think they need a quarterback. I think they could use Eli Apple's gone, AWOL. They could use another corner. But if you start looking at the Dallas Cowboys this morning, they got 10 draft picks and one glaring need, safety. This is a playoff team, folks. They've got 10 picks and one glaring need. And I would say one is safety, 1A, interior defensive lineman. They have the edge rushers. They got the quarterback. They got the running back. You could say they need a new tight end. Again, nobody's getting in or out of the Super Bowl because of tight end depth.
So you called me crazy when I picked the Eagles last year. Dallas, Rams, Philadelphia. You look at those three teams, and you figure out what they have to draft. Their first world problems, tight end depth, maybe another linebacker. That's about it. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So everyone's favorite QB prospect, Josh Allen, had a very impressive pro day throwing against air. His accuracy was actually pretty good, which was a concern with him. He has a just absolutely ridiculous arm.
He does.
Some people think it's one of the best maybe ever.
Yeah, he's got a Cam Newton Big Ben arm.
Right.
He has just got a cannon.
Now, apparently, the owner of the Browns was there for his pro day. Now, who knows? He might just love going to Wyoming. Now, there are some crazy people like our own Jason McIntyre who actually think the Browns are going to draft Allen with the first pick, not Sam Darnold. Do you think that's even remotely a possibility?
Yes. And now, can I just say this? I've told you, if they draft Josh Rosen, I'd crush him. If they draft Baker Mayfield, I'd crush him. If they draft Saquon Barkley, I'd crush him. If they passed on Darnold and they went for a 6'5", 230-pound kid with an arm, I wouldn't crush him. I wouldn't, because I really believe this. This Josh Allen kid is not ready to play day one. Sam Darnold is. And I think Sam Darnold's going to be a better pro. I do. But I absolutely get Cleveland watching Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl in their division and watching Big Ben win multiple Super Bowls in their division and knowing their weather and saying 6'5", 240, rocket arm.
Plays outdoors in
Wyoming. I wouldn't. You think I'm nuts? The other quarterback, Baker's small. Lamar's not a pro style, ready to play. By the way, Josh Rosen doesn't feel like Cleveland to me. Darnold feels like Cleveland. Josh Allen feels like Cleveland.
They also have Tyrod Taylor, so he could play for a year, make you at least decent, and then you can bring him in. We talked before about the Giants owner speaking out about Odell Beckham Jr. So the Giants have the second overall pick, and there's been discussion of them taking a quarterback. Do they take Saquon Barkley? I know you think they should probably take a quarterback. What's interesting about what John Mara said, the Giants owner, is that he really admired the way the Packers had a succession plan for Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, and he admired that. The fact that he's talking about that, and they still have the number 2 pick, which we said doesn't make any sense to keep if you're not taking a quarterback. Do you think that's him showing his hand a little bit, that they want to take a quarterback and have him sit behind Eli for a year?
Which is what they should do, by the way.
That's what you would do?
Yes, this is what you should do. Listen, according to all these NFL guys, of all these guys that are reporters for a living, they are telling me the Giants aren't drafting a quarterback. This is what reporters I trust are telling me. My belief is there's still like a 40-50% chance the Giants take a quarterback. So people I trust and respect in this business, the guys I lean on, my Schragers, guys like that, they're all telling me, every report I read from New York Giant beat writers in the New York Daily News, they're not drafting a quarterback. I'm just telling you, my gut feeling is it's all a smokescreen. And if Cleveland drafted Josh Allen, they would take Darnold. There's not a doubt in my mind. Not a doubt in my mind. And I still think they're strongly considering Josh Rosen. That is what my instincts may be cruddy.
If Darnold fell to him, do they take him? Or is
God,
that when
yes. You just take him.
Is that when you trade down? Because all of a sudden that pick is worth even more with Darnold available.
If Darnold falls to 2, you take him. Period. You figure out the rest later.
And finally, speaking of quarterback draft class, who do you think is the most ready day one for the NFL of the entire class?
What?
Like, which quarterback that's
next
getting drafted
year?
do you think is, like, most NFL ready to start? Like, I know you like Allen, but you think he needs to wait. Lamar Jackson needs time to prep.
The kid at Michigan, that Shea Patterson, he'll be the number one. Like the kid that was at Ole Miss and he transferred out, that kid's going to be your number one quarterback next year.
No. This draft class.
Oh, this one.
Going to the NFL now.
Oh,
most
Darnold's
NFL
ready to play today.
Darnold is your guy?
Yes.
So, okay.
Rosen and Darnold could start today and win games in the NFL, for me.
So you are familiar with the Michigan Wolverines quarterback, John O'Korn?
Yes, yeah.
He thinks he is the most NFL-ready quarterback.
Today?
Quote, I think I'm the most NFL-ready QB in this draft, just as far as terminology and knowing what to do on a day-to-day basis and game planning. Do you agree with the O'Korn power rankings that have John O'Korn as the most NFL ready?
No, I'm gonna pass on that.
You're not gonna take him number one because of his NFL readiness, because he knows the terminology.
Listen, nobody memorizes a playbook like John O'Korn. That guy knows A to Z.
I think the problem is what he does after he calls the play.
Right.
That's the bigger issue.
Oh, it's been his big issue. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Let's welcome him in. He's my buddy, Fox Sports Radio, after our show. I want to hear his opinion. We got all sorts of hurt point guards. Doug Gottlieb. Gottlieb was a gamer. Gottlieb played through pain. Gottlieb's a tough guy. Okay, let's just start.
So inaccurate. I was actually never hurt, but that's okay.
That's well, you're tough. You're sturdy.
Sure.
You are sturdy.
Yes.
Okay.
You're sinewy. I'm sturdy.
Yes. Okay, so let's play the Tony Parker thing. Greg, do we have that? So this is Tony Parker at the San Antonio, facility. He had the same injury as Kawhi Leonard. Okay, let's play the tape, and then Doug will respond to it. Go ahead.
I've been through it. It was a rehab for me, too, for 8 months, so same kind of injury. My mind was 100 times worse, but same kind of injury, and just try to stay positive. I could have gone anywhere, but I trust my Spurs doctors. They've been with me, my whole career. They know my body better than anybody. I feel like we have the best medical team in the world.
Dude.
What?
What, dude?
You just said what? Did you say 100 times worse? And then you went into infomercial mode, right? Then he went into I could have gone anywhere, but I chose our doctors, and here's why, right? I can't believe what I heard from Tony Parker. I cannot. It's like in life you don't tell people how to raise their kids. Right. You don't tell people how to pray. Right. Yeah. And I don't think you should tell people how to spend their money. Same thing in the NBA. Don't talk about my personal life. Don't talk about how I spend my money. And please don't tell me whether or not I'm hurt or not hurt, especially when you're my teammate.
Good rule.
And then to say it was 100 times worse? You simply could have said, I had the same injury. My experience with our physicians was they did everything they could to get me back on the court, and I got back on the court, and I'm fine. By the way, you lost your starting job when you came back. Failed to mention that part. So whether or not that's because of age and because DeJounte Murray's just a better player than you at this point, whatever you came back as, it's now the backup point guard of the San Antonio Spurs.
You have an interesting relationship. I don't know exactly, but I remember leaning on you with Kawhi Leonard in college. Didn't you have somebody coach somebody who knew?
No. Well, my brother recruited him when he was first at San Diego State, and then he was at Cal.
Yes.
And remember,
what do you make of this Kawhi thing?
I make of it as this is the beginning of the end of their relationship.
Okay.
Right? You simply, look, there's lots of personal relationships to which you don't air it publicly. Once you do, it's over. It's over.
Right.
You start saying Kawhi Leonard's soft. That's what he said. Kawhi Leonard's soft.
Yeah.
We think Kawhi Leonard's soft.
By the way, as Steven Jackson said earlier, Kawhi is not an idiot. He knows that comes from Pop.
Of course. You kind of have your henchmen, right?
Sure,
you have your henchmen, and now they're going in front of the camera. The week before, it was Manu Ginobili saying he's not coming back, right? You have all of the longtime Spurs lining up, guy after guy falling in line with the propaganda that the San Antonio Spurs want. And whether or not it's a reality that the doctors think he can play and the players think it doesn't matter. You don't ever say that publicly. You just don't. And what's I think even more fascinating is kind of like the New England Patriots is we're seeing a team that does such a great job of keeping everything quiet, suddenly not deal with a very public story.
Well, this has always been my thing, or Phil Jackson would do this. If the downside of being smart, and there's very few downsides, you'd want to be smart. The downside is you can't conveniently play stupid. Bill Belichick, tape? I don't even know where the footballs are. Okay, Phil Jackson would say, okay, they have been the most covert NBA team. Now they're like Ellen. It's like a talk show every day. Like suddenly San Antonio players are glib and talking about injuries, which, by the way, they would never talk about before. It's clearly a message top down to make Kawhi look bad.
No, and I'm sure Tony and Ginobili, they're ticked because they think, hey, this is a year. You look at Golden State, they're all banged up. We think that if we're healthy, we can beat Houston. Yep. Why do we think that? We beat them last year, and we weren't healthy. Right. We think they don't play defense. We think they're soft. They're not a playoff team. We got a chance at one last run at a championship, and this dude's saying he's injured when he's really hurt. There's a difference between if you're hurt, get back out on the floor. If you're injured, go see the trainer. Let us know when you're just hurt and ready to play. I'm sure you're frustrated, but you can't air it publicly. And like you said, Kawhi's not stupid, and they believe that money is the ultimate motivator, right? Because only San Antonio can sign him to the Supermax. Right. So they're sitting there going like, what's he going to do, leave and leave all that money on the table? They're challenging kind of the manhood and the toughness of Kawhi Leonard.
And that's kind of his DNA.
Yes. And you bring up the point of my brother was when Mike Montgomery got the job at Cal. Yeah. He had been in the NBA, and he'd been broadcasting, and he said, all right, we need to go get a big man. My brother said, yes, we do need a big man. I'm going to take you to Riverside MLK High School. Yeah. And we're going to see a guy you have to sign, and his name's Kawhi Leonard. And we go in the gym, and he's a 6'6" center. He's like, that's great. I love him, but he's a 6'6" center. He can't play center in the Pac-12 at 6'6". Yeah. No, trust me, he'll be a 4. Eventually, he'll be a 3. Nobody in the Pac-12 offered him a scholarship. They ended up taking a guy named Bach instead of taking Kawhi Leonard. Yeah. And it's just because traditionally 6'10", 6'11" works in the Pac-12, and he goes to San Diego State, eventually develops his game, has become better than anybody thought he'd become. But it's because of his toughness. It's because of his competitiveness. Hell, he was Player of the Year in the state of California, and he still holds a chip on his shoulder. He wasn't McDonald's All-American because he was a 6'6" center in high school. So I think all of this is his makeup, and I think it's going to pull him away from San Antonio.
Yeah, that's interesting. So here's the thing. I think I love LeBron. I think you do too. But, I'm not going to deny that he can be, a little cryptic, a little message sender. So he's had the best month in his life. And I do think it comes not so coincidentally when Kyrie's hurt and Ty Lue's got a chest pains. Every month of his career, he is now absurd. Could I not make the argument, Doug, this is kind of par for LeBron's course, which maybe he's bored, a little inauthentic, but he's a message sender. He's sending a message to somebody. I'm not sure if I have it right. He's sending a message, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt there's a message being sent, but I think it's the same message he sent when Steph Curry was the unanimous MVP. When he said, look, Steph's had... Remember, everybody kind of got his words all twisted, and he said accurately, Steph Curry's had an amazing season, and essentially said he's had the best season. But when it comes to value... I don't know exactly how I would evaluate value in what I do for this team. Yeah. Now everybody's saying, I've heard people say it's James Harden is the MVP, end of story. And he's like, really? End of story? Okay. Here's a little bit part of the story. And you can't win big because you don't have a secondary scorer. And I actually think there's a little bit of a message there to Ty Lue. Remember, they got into it before, verbally in terms of his shot selection. I think he likes to be challenged. Yes. Michael Jordan used to do this, where they find different reasons to go to work every day. Sure. Why else for 15 years would you keep coming out and kicking tail every day? Right. And here's why. To me, yesterday, in addition to obviously finding the last two teams in the Final Four, yesterday was the greatest symbol of what LeBron James is in the NBA, if you watched both of these games. Because LeBron thoroughly and completely dominated this game physically. Plus, he's shown the added skill to make a three-pointer when he needs to. He's improved as a shooter. And then you watch Carmelo Anthony in the nightcap. And I don't know if you watched Oklahoma City, but Carmelo Anthony looked washed up. Yeah. They came out the same draft class. Yeah. Okay, Carmelo Anthony is a year older, okay, but their bodies are completely dissimilar now because LeBron has always taken care of his instrument as opposed to Carmelo Anthony. Sometimes during the offseason he loses weight and he's hoodie mellow and he gets in shape, whereas LeBron has taken it very seriously, been the most professional of these professionals, and at 15 years he's still arguably the best or second best player in the league, as opposed to Carmelo Anthony, who's maybe the third best player on the Oklahoma City Thunder.
1, 2, maybe fourth?
Probably.
Steven Adams today?
Probably.
Yeah, I'd say fourth.
I said maybe. I properly used the semantics of maybe.
Can you come back, or do you have to get to...
No, I'm good.
Do you have to drive to Sherman Oaks, or can you come back?
Sherman Oaks, I'm okay.
Okay. I'm going to bring Gottlieb back. I worry about
Wow, I get the call. This is like Johnny. Bring me over to the couch. I love that.
Okay. All right. Gottlieb will return. You never turn down free money, right? Well, if you're shopping online without the best coupons, you're giving away free money. There is a free browser extension called Honey that automatically finds the best coupons on the web while you shop. Doesn't matter if it's a big screen TV or pizza. So it saves you money while you're doing all your stuff shopping. 2 clicks, that's it. You add it to a browser, and it doesn't cost anything. It's free. Over 7 million people use it. Millions of dollars saved over the course of a year. And what Honey does is scan and test coupons in the background while you're doing your online shopping. Over 7 million people have used it. Don't overpay. Money to be saved. Honey's got your back. Right now, get it for free. You got to go to joinhoney.com/herd. joinhoney.com/HERD. 2 clicks, that's it. You add Honey to any browser, you do it today, and you do it for free. joinhoney.com/herd.